Hello everybody, I'm Rizky, and today I will to tell everything about how to build a PC or personal computer. That is another content about my English speak. That is very special content for my YouTube channel because I've already bought my own PC. I'm so excited about that. And today I already recording with two camera. You can see in front of us. That is my webcam camera, focusing only recording my face. And then that is my second camera. I using my smartphone to recording this PC component and all process during the installation PC. Okay, let's check this content and keep it up. So here is our case. Over here is a budget case, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Okay, the first we are going to do is install the motherboard. I'm sorry. We are going to install motherboard first. So what we have with us say the Asus H81MC. So install the motherboard right here. Now the motherboard is the central hub for everything, every component. So this is one of the most important parts. So we are going to do the CPU installation. Next, the CPU is a small piece that goes right here, which is basically the brain of the computer. What we want to do is we want to release this latch here. You know, if I can release this latch here, please. Yep, thank you. So once that has been released, what we need to do is we need to get our CPU. What we have with us is a Intel Core i5 processor. Kind of looks like one of the new i9 processor. Now we're going to do is we got to close it. So let's close that. Okay, good. Oh yeah, beautiful. Now what we go out to install next is the CPU cooler, because if you not have that, your PC will break. But first we need to apply thermal paste. Thermal paste is a pasty kind of metal that you put on your CPU that connects to the CPU. Cooling. Okay, this is my CPU cooler, so it can transfer heat better. So what we have with us is a stock cooler that our Intel Core i5 processor. After our processor was already installed on our motherboard, I will taking on this thermal paste. Okay, in this case I will using thermal paste in a small bottle package. Okay, that is in cheaper price between the others. Let's begin to applying this thermal paste on top of my processor. Just be sufficiently to applying it. Our purpose to doing this thing is to transfer out the heat from processor into heatsink perfectly. Because the copper layer of this heatsink were not flat. It needs a connector to be conducting out the heat very well. Okay. After that, we should be going to install heatsink on it, and then turn all of its key to being unlocked position, then press it down into the motherboard, hold it until we already heard the sound of click. After that, we should be going to install the CPU fan connector. Okay, make sure to put the key in right position. Sorry for scratching my head. So we're just going to place that on and it should be set. I think everything's okay. So the CPU is all done. Next we are going to do memory or RAM, as some people call it. So first we need to release these latches here, all 4 of them. I hope my math is correct. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, we're going to install 2 sticks of memory, DDR3 memory. Keep that in mind. Doesn't tell us how many gigabytes on it. Okay, just give me a sec for read this label. Yeah, okay. In this case, we have 2 RAM. Both of each order is 4 gigabytes. And the total all of them is 8 gigabytes. Come on. Our RAM should be plugged into motherboard socket memory. Okay, but before we start this process, make sure the keying position of slot was already open. Wait a minute. I'm just should be looking for a comfortable position before installing it. Okay, right. First, we should be determine the shape of this RAM are the same as the slot. Wait a moment again. My holding position is still not quite right. I will changing this motherboard position. Okay, I'm fine. We will putting it very slowly over the socket. Then we should holding both ends of this RAM with our thumbs. We should pressing it simultaneously until we already heard the click sound. Okay, that sound was a sign. Okay, our RAM is being locked perfectly. And then we should do the same thing for the next RAM. Then we shall do plug in this motherboard into our case, but before we do that, I will be changing our case into horizontally position to make the process easier. Then I will directing out these cables, making this installation being easy, especially to plug in this motherboard into it. Then I should be doing, putting this motherboard into the case. But before we going to attaching these bolts or screws, first we should do to installing this I/O shield between the motherboard and the outer case. The purpose of it is to prevent all of the foreign objects such as dust or insects to shouldn't get into our motherboard. Okay, we should be installing this I/O shield from inside section of our case. We should to do it very carefully until it was being adhered perfectly. Okay, it looks like this. Then after the I/O shield was installed perfectly, we shall back to locating this motherboard into the same as the bolt or screws holes. We can hold the heatsink part to make it easier. Make sure all of the parts was already have adjusted location of the screws or bolt holes respectively. Then we should do doing this. Okay, press gently to make sure this position was being perfect. After that, we shall to installing all of these bolts in every hole we just looking for. Okay, this is our first bolt. Then we should be doing this very slowly. Okay, attaching it using a magnetic screwdriver was very easy. Then we shall to go to our second bolt. Then our third bolt. The fourth bolt. And finally our fifth bolt. After all of our bolts was already installed perfectly, we shall to continuing our installation for the case cables. Okay, first we must to plug in these LED power cables into motherboard jumper. this cable was already have between plus and minus section. Wait a minute. Okay, we shall to continuing again. Just plug in this plus and minus cable section according to the written instruction on the motherboard. After that, we should to be installing this hard drive LED. Okay, the method the same as before. Just read yourself according to the written instruction intensively. However, that instruction wasn't be clearly recorded in my camera. I should be going to do is, yes, installing it above the power LED jumper. And then, we continuing to plug our reset switch or the reset button switch. And finally, the power switch or the power button switch. Okay. Make sure everything was already attached to the jumper perfectly among the written instruction on the motherboard. Next, we must to plug in this audio cable. Okay. Just putting it into the AA FP jumper. Or if you feel confused, just look at this. We should to find matching count of this pin. In this case, the total number of our pin is 9. And then, gently attach it to jumper with 9 holes. Okay? Then, plug in this USB cable carefully. In this case, we already have 2 jumpers for USB installation. So, we can choose one between of them. The installation method was the same as the audio cable before. This motherboard has been installed perfectly. If you're confused, if you don't know about PC, you might learn as well in Google or anything. Alright, next we have power supply. Okay, so we have the 500 watt power supply and the brand name is FSP Hexa power supply. Okay, that sound is good. 500 watt is bit much for DDR3 memory, but it'll do. Then we're just using this PC for gaming. First, we need to take our power supply. I should to be going to changing our case position horizontally, okay, to make installation easier. After that, we should be going to put this power supply in a correct place. In this case, the right position for this power supply is on top. Okay, put it slowly, but after that, pushing it into forward carefully, matching correct for adjusting the location of the bolt holes. And then, we shall to continuing this installation of our first bolt, then our second bolt. Just wait a moment, guys. I will changing up this case position to make it easier. Then installing our third bolt. Then yes, finally our last bolt. Then we should be plugging in these 24 pin connectors. Okay, but before we do that, I will be pointing out this unusing cable to be better for clearly access. Here is our 24 pin connector. Okay, before we continuing this installation, make sure this 4 pin section was already pointed slightly upwards, and then hold it down to be a better position. And then making it pretty sure the headlock was being matching into its position. After that, just attach and putting it into this hold position. Then press that corner section and middle section, pressing it carefully until being locked completely. Then we just do it. Plug this connector in correct place. It's totally 4 pins on this 80x 12 volt socket. In this case, our power supply was already have 8 pins. However, I will just only using 4 pins in 4th generation i5 processor. Put it gently to adjusting the headlock position being correct and match. and hold it again until it locks completely on us. Okay, which if you are doing a gaming computer, you will need a graphics card. So what we have with us is with the brand of Galax GTX 1060 with VRAM 6GB. Beautiful. We're going to install in this PCIe slot. And if you install this correctly, you should be getting better frame rate than 10 frames per second. But we are going to have to deal with it. To installing these graphics cards, we may to putting it correctly into this PCI Express slot. Okay, but before we do that, make sure the lock was already open. And then first, we should be putting it carefully. We can start this installation from the lock section first, and then pressing it until the lock was being complete. And yes, we are already done as well. After that, we should be plugging in this 6 pins connector. Anyway, this power supply was already have 8 pins. However, this time I just only use 6 pins because our graphic cards only need 6 pins anyway. Finally, we need to hold this graphics card position with one bolt. Okay, this is optional guys. It can be doing or not. I just find this remaining bolt already from the previous motherboard installation section a few minutes ago. Okay. Next, then I should be going to attaching this shield cover with 2 screws in it. Okay. Next, we're going to need storage. In this case, I have only one hard disk drive, with the total of capacity is 500 gigabytes. And then the brand name of this hard disk drive is Toshiba. And in this case, we do not have a solid state drive, which is what I would recommend to put your Windows 10 on there. First, we need to take this hard drive, then putting it carefully into this our case. Place it slowly and make sure this position was being matched with the bolt hole. And then we should be going to attaching this bolt for each hole, and we must hold this hard drive position simultaneously. And next, we shall to plug it in this SATA 6GB per second data. Okay? But we must be careful to hold this position into the socket order. There was written 3GB per second or 6GB per second, and the sorting position was become first or second. Okay? Our choice was depends on the SATA cable that we will use. I choosing this yellow socket for SATA 6GB per second, and then attach it slowly. Then pressing it gently until it locks was being complete. After that, we shall to plugging in the SATA connector on our hard drive. Press it again until it was being perfectly inserted. And next, we should be to continue installing the other parts of SATA 6GB per second. Just plug it in anyway and pressing it again until being locked completely. And finally, our hard drive has been already installed. What do we need next? We got the graphic cards done, the CPU and motherboard, and then memory and the storage, power supply. Great, we're done. And the last thing I will to do is, let's put DVD read-write in here. Okay, well, we're done with DVD read and write. The last part is I will see back panel. Okay, we're going to need that. Let's move that over. Install the back panel. There we go, all set. Next, I want to put the side panel. Got the front panel now. And usually you wouldn't put all your panels together because it will hold the heat inside this case, especially when your PC is working on a heavy process such as playing game or rendering videos or anything like that. Okay, it is good if in that condition the front panel is already open. Okay, next, what do we need now? I think we're all done, guys. So I think we should test this computer. So let's put the back side toward our computer. If we didn't trap frame rate, if you remember, we have one powerful graphics card with 6GB VRAM. Okay, so this should be pretty beastly system in HD pixel monitor. I'm kind of upset that we have an i5 processor because it's not overclockable. But here, let's see. Alright, oh yeah, so that's completely fine. I mean, we don't need more parts. I did build this PC for an editing video and for a gaming computer, even though we can't game on high end. This is for medium specification. But you know what, guys, hopefully you learned a lot in this video because I'm done. I'm Visipro and you do not count anyways, guys. That's the end of this episode here. I will see you in the next video.